Pam Bondi not messing around. First news conference out. And what is she doing? She's filing charges. Letitia, watch out.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Wow. By the way, it is of note that those are angel moms behind her. In other words, people who have lost their children as a result of illegals that are here in this country committing crimes. We know of nearly 700,000 that are here in this country, 50,000 of whom are believed to have committed murder, 20,000 of whom ICE believes have committed sexual assault. And we're not even talking about, you're here illegally, therefore you're already in violation of the law. These are the people that they know are a problem. 650 some odd thousand. Pam Bondi saying, you know what? Enough is enough. Enough is enough. You guys are encouraging this. You are putting Americans in harm's way by doing so. In fact, let's just go to the record. I mean, Letitia James said this herself, did she not? In a tweet where she was going on about how we have our laws in New York and how we're going to protect our people in New York. She's actually standing in violation of federal laws, because I'll tell you one thing, if there's one thing that the federal government has the opportunity to do, it is to go after. Yes, it is to go after people who are here illegally, because guess what? The feds are in charge of our border, and the feds are in charge of who's in this country. And it doesn't get to be a decision made by the states. It doesn't get to be a decision made by the likes of one Letitia James, even though she clearly thinks differently, right?
Not only does this administration's new policy put people at risk, but it is plainly unconstitutional.
No, you know what? It's not, because, hey, we just showed you the Constitution. Maybe she's just not that good a lawyer, not that bright. She's very political. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Constitution. Guess what? You can go to Commerce Clause 2 if you want, okay, lady? I'm not a trained legal scholar, but this is pretty basic stuff. The U.S. government has the ability to control its borders and who is here. And New York's Attorney General, Letitia James, does not have that right, nor does the governor of New York. They can't make up their own rules as far as that goes. Hey, you want to know why Governor Abbott down in Texas was struggling when they were taking down the wall and he couldn't do anything about it? He's trying to put it back up because guess what? The feds are in charge of it. Biden was in charge of it. Donald Trump is now in charge, and Pam Bondi is his attorney general, and she, as I said, not messing around. Let's go back to the news conference. You hear her saying, guess what? We're coming for you. This is serious.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ. And we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today.
Truly amazing. I mean, what, he's been in office 3 weeks. She's been there, maybe a week? And she's already coming out swinging. But this is a team that's actually ready to do what it needs to do. I mean, this is a very different administration than you saw the first time around. He's been there, done that. He's been there, done that, and he's coming back ready and equipped, clearly, with what he needs in order to get the job done. This came up recently, one of his former attorneys, Mike Davis, speaking with our friend Benny Johnson, saying, you know what, Tish James, you're going to be in trouble. And sure enough, she's in trouble.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time. and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen.
And you know what? It is other Americans' constitutional rights. When you say you have 650,000 people that are known criminals living in this country, and what are you doing in New York? You're giving them $59 million. That was the latest and greatest, right? That we discovered. FEMA apparently cutting a check. Those people, 4 people, were fired as a result of it. DOJ exposing that $59 million going to New York City luxury hotels so that they could continue to pay migrants' bills. That puts you very much at odds with what the feds are trying to do here. And then on top of that, you think about all the states out there that are leaking, telling people, oh, there's going to be a raid here, there's going to be a raid there. Look, this is something that Tom Homan keeps bringing up. He's accusing now the FBI of leaking, and he has made it very clear he's working with Pam Bondi to address these leakers because they are standing in the way of the federal government doing its job. Letitia James has proven what a menace she is to society. But think about the innocent people in New York, the angel mom standing behind Pam Bondi, whose children would be alive today if it weren't for the criminals coming into the country. This is something that Steve Bannon touched on yesterday, saying that, frankly, the existential threat to this administration right now is indeed Letitia James, and they need to get that under control. They need to charge her. She is in violation of the
existential threat to President Trump's administration. And I mean Doge, Elon Musk, Secretary of Treasury Bessent, Russ Vought, Stephen Miller, all of his people. The existential threat is right here in this city. It is the queen of lawfare. It's Letitia James. Right now, Soros has a DA that's running unopposed. He can call a grand jury at any time. He can set up criminal charges on the most bogus efforts. Letitia James runs this deal. She's got a pliant media right here, pliant left-wing media. She's got a jury pool of only left-wing radicals in the Upper West Side of this city. And she's got the judges. She's got all of it. And I'm calling on right now the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to begin an immediate criminal investigation into Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, all of it for what they did to President Trump. President Trump, on his Truth Social today, laid it out once again. The existential threat to his administration is this queen of lawfare, Letitia James, and how she has absolutely total control. And Doge and Elon Musk and Scott Bessent and all of them ought to be worried about this out of control city. Thank you very much.
I'll tell you, Bannon's right. Pam Bondi's doing her job, by the way. She's out there coming out swinging, very first press conference, as I said. But, consider all that's been happening. Consider how there's been these warnings, right? A couple of ICE raids were supposed to happen, but yet they didn't. They didn't because people were getting tipped off. And Tom Homan's like, enough is enough. You can't do that. That's actually the thing that's going to land you back in jail yourselves. I mean, he thinks it's coming from the FBI. Take a listen here.
What is our Tom Homan? Tom, where are these leaks coming from?
Well, look, we think it's coming from inside, and we know the first leak of Aurora is under current investigation. We think we identified that person under investigation right now. The California leak, Secretary Noem, she's correct. Some of the information we're receiving tends to lead toward the FBI. But I talked to the Deputy Attorney General all this weekend. They've opened up a criminal investigation. And they have promised that not only this person lose their job and lose their pension, they're going to go to jail. They're going to criminally prosecute. So we're all over it.
They're all over it. You hear that, Letitia? I think she's actually in jeopardy. Pam Bondi making it very clear she was going to go after the leakers as well.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV.
So listen, it is a whole new ball game, and these people aren't messing around. Meanwhile, Letitia has a whole bunch of other things that she ought to be really, really concerned about right now, because there are growing allegations about her and her financial dealings, real estate dealings and even campaign dealings. Okay, here's Roger Stone. Now, it's Roger Stone, but he's a New York Attorney General. Tish James is in deep, bad word, deep, you know what, campaign finance, fraud, personal financial fraud, and the cover-up of sexual assault will take her down. Cover-up of, whoa, okay. And then you get this one, also from Roger, a careful examination of New York Attorney General Letitia James' financial disclosure shows that she inflated the value of her assets in order to get mortgages on various commercial properties, exactly what she falsely accused Donald Trump of doing. All right. Can't make it up. Donald Trump, meanwhile, coming out some 24 hours ago saying New York is the most corrupt state in the union. That is why so many businesses are leaving. This is why so many businesses don't want to have anything to do with this. So many judges and politicians are working to help fix New York to stop the kind of lawfare that was launched against me from falsely valuing Mar-a-Lago at $18 million when it's worth perhaps many multiples of that. Of course, you consider what just went down yesterday, which was the release of news that there is a property next door to Mar-a-Lago that's on the market, just the dirt, nothing on it, no house, nothing, for $200 million. And so how is Letitia coming up with $18 million? I mean, it seems grossly irresponsible. But if you listen to what some are saying on, I think this website is called White Collar Crime, Letitia's got a host of problems, according to them. They're accusing her of a lot. For example, perhaps some fraudulent activity as it relates to her campaign. Letitia James and Working Families Party, luxury travel and creative accounting, according to this site, that, there was this amazing, uncanny knack or ability to somehow be doing business on Martha's Vineyard in August during, like prime time, like most expensive time to go to Martha's Vineyard is August. And somehow Letitia's campaign is there. And they're renting a house, office space, renting hotel rooms, more office space, I guess. At the same time, you get the Working Families Party doing this. And then, they're going through this and they're saying, gee, why are you having these luxury stays, Letitia? That doesn't really add up. Martha's Vineyard house rental, house stay for the working party. I mean, look at this, $2,000, $725, right in the middle of August again, $1,878, hotel stay. It adds up. So people are asking questions about that, if you would. And then the other thing, as you heard from the tweet that was retweeted, I should point out, by none other than Donald Trump. Look at who is at the top of that letterhead. This is the tweet that came from Roger Stone saying that if you look at these records, she was actually doing some funny business as far as her own real estate was concerned. And what he's referring to is actually this right here, where somehow she has declared property value and then she's got a couple of mortgages on a property. He's like, wait a second, if the declared property value is only between 100 and 150K, this is some kind of vacation property that she was supposed to be renting out, I believe in Virginia. And he's like, how is it that you would have so much more in mortgages? Why would it be double in mortgages? That doesn't make any sense unless you were somehow inflating the assets. And then he also pointed this out, that according to her calendar year disclosures, the property's value surged by 42% between 21 and 22. And that doesn't really make sense given that, well, the city is telling a very different story. They actually showed a decrease in the property's value, down nearly 8%. So which is it, Letitia? Were you just trying to increase the value in order to get a better deal on mortgages? Looked like you had a little more collateral? I mean, if she did it, she probably did. I still go back to this. Donald Trump had absolutely every right to value Mar-a-Lago however he saw fit. And I would just say the responsibility or the onus is on the bank that's making the loan to determine whether it's really worth that, since that would be their collateral. And by the way, I'm still waiting for the darn judges in this one. This is in the Court of Appeals for New York, and everybody's so damn slow. They're not doing what they ought to do, but they know the answer, right? We know the answer because you can go back to September. I mean, they wouldn't even let Judith Vale, who was the attorney for Letitia James, because you see, Letitia's just a politician. She doesn't argue in the appellate court. She couldn't even get a word out. They cut her right off. You know what? This case has no merit. There was no victim.
May it please the court, Judith Vale for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated...
Ms. Vale, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners, where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely concerned inherently subjective valuations of properties and businesses.
Yes.
And where the victim never complained about any fraud in the transactional losses from it. Because I've gone through the cases which you've cited, and all of them always involved the consumer protection aspect. It involved protection of the market.
Well, several responses.
And I want to add to his question, and little to no impact on the public marketplace.
In other words, there was no victim. Letitia James completely made something up to go after somebody that she did not want to become the president of the United States. That was really pretty darn clear. And the appellate judges, they know it. In the Court of Appeals, they're like, wait, what is this? This sounds like a private case. What is this doing in the hands of Letitia James?
It was using...
I'm sorry, but what's being described sounds an awful lot like a potential commercial dispute between private actors.
Well, to go back to the first question about whether there's other examples of this, there are other examples of this. In the First American case, the Attorney General brought a 6312 case where the transaction at issue was between a very big bank, Wells Fargo, and a professional appraisal firm.
But it wasn't the concern there that the public would ultimately be negatively impacted and affected by what those corporate actors were doing.
And that concern is here as well, because when you have hidden risks getting injected into the market, that hurts the market and honest participants in the market. And the legislature also decided, contrary to what defendants think, that making sure that business in New York stays honest is the way to attract and keep business
So to that
in New
point,
York.
the Executive Law 6312, I just want to read a section of it. Well, not exactly, but was enacted to promote and protect honesty and integrity. It's the same question I asked the other side. In commercial marketplaces in New York by stopping fraudulent and illegal businesses. To accomplish this purpose, the statute authorizes the Attorney General to bring civil enforcement proceedings on behalf of the people whenever any person shall engage in repeated fraudulent or illegal acts or otherwise demonstrate persistent fraud or illegality in the carrying on, conducting, or transacting of business. I don't read harm or threat of harm in that, but the other side is saying that that is to be read into the statute. Are there any cases where the language harm or threat to harm limits the scope of the Attorney General?
No, Your Honor, not as to liability, and not in cases like this where what the Attorney General is seeking is injunctive relief and disgorgement.
No, okay. So we're still waiting, okay? We're still waiting on the Court of Appeals to slap her down there. It should have happened a while ago. I guess you get a bunch of scaredy cats. But bottom line, at least you got Pam Bondi, who again is coming forward now with charges against New York's Governor Kathy Hochul. She's got charges against Letitia James, charges against the head of the DMV, because why? They are in the way of the feds doing their job. They are not protecting the citizens that live there in New York. You can't have 650,000 known criminals in the country, 50,000 of whom are believed to have committed homicide and 20,000 sexual assault. I mean, that doesn't work, okay? And Donald Trump ran on cleaning up the border and getting people that are here criminally out. And that's exactly what he's doing. She, meanwhile, Letitia James, is doubling down on all her politics.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We
called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Thank you.
Okay. You know what? I know you don't want to see that, but you have to see that because you need to understand the context around this woman. You need to understand what a political animal she is and how she used and abused the law. Lawfare, as you might call it. She used and abused it to try and get rid of Donald Trump. Same thing going down with Alvin Bragg. Same thing going on with Fani Willis. She was not as successful because of her own indiscretions along the way. These people, however, they are what you would call political animals. And now it's being challenged. And now she could be threatened with jail time herself for actually getting in the way of what the federal government is trying to do. Think about that. I mean, this kind of is sort of a big deal. And I got to tell you, any which way you slice it, you know how this comes out? If it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, and it may indeed, it comes out that Donald Trump has every right to control the borders. The federal government has this right. So Letitia James, you can pretend all you want. You can live in your vacuum with your tweets saying, oh, New York can do what it wants to do. No, New York cannot do what it wants to do. Not in this case. This is the responsibility of the federal government.